So, as you may see, we have a kind of balanced representation from the government, because government means on our right side, right side, and he's on the right side. Okay. One of the key persons from the Bangladesh Investment Development Authority, I was about to say institute, sorry, BIDA, for all our friends from abroad, they are the point for facilitating all the investments from abroad, also the domestic investments, and we have to have the Director General for Department of Environment, particularly because of the plastics. He'll be very key, so we are expecting him any time. We are also expecting the Energy Secretary. Again, he's stuck. But then also we have the CEO of the Unilever Bangladesh, H&M Zia is known to many, and also Mr. Iqbal Chaudhry. There should not be any particular order, but let me start with maybe on the left side. Doesn't mean that I have the... Mr. Javed, no introduction for Unilever. Because Unilever also is headquartered in Netherlands. So I understand that Unilever is trying to tweak the ground in terms of rolling out some of this possibility and to test the frontiers of circularity in manufacturing, particularly in FMCG. So would you reflect or share your bit of experience?
Sure. Firstly, thank you, Ambassador. Thank you so much for inviting me today to talk about Unilever and its initiative. I think it all starts from the purpose that we define as an organization. And earlier part of this, 2009, we had a CEO, global CEO, Mr. Pullman, who actually came in and challenged some of the notions of how we were doing business. And essentially seeing, and we have seen earlier speakers talk about it, that how do you bring in non-linearity in terms of how we grow and drive our business. And that's how it all started. In fact, if you go back in the history of many businesses as well, and you will see how really being away from the purpose led to destruction. A classic example is ICI, Imperial Chemical Industries, which used to be the largest manufacturing organization, and their purpose used to be the best chemical company. Till at some point it shared and said, our purpose is to maximize shareholder value. In fact, after it was shifted to that, it got sold off. AkzoNobel bought it off, and then it got disseminated. So what Unilever we tried to do is we said that how do you really decouple this? And we went into the ambition, and I'll talk about specific to plastic, the work we have in, and come down to Bangladesh, what we're doing is how do you really reduce the impact that we have on plastic? And the commitment that we have taken is that we'll have reduced 50% of virgin plastic consumption. We'll put in 25% of post-consumer recycled plastic, and then we'll make sure that we collect more plastic than that goes in the environment to us. Now, what does this mean in reality on the ground? It means we have a strategy of what we call less plastic, better plastic to no plastics. And what we're trying to do is actually deliver a situation where we have and keep this whole plastic, make sure that it doesn't go into landfill, because that's the single biggest challenge that we have in the country. And the way we have done this less plastic is, to start with, we've actually seen that can we actually start redesigning our bottle? A simple act of redesigning many of our packs have resulted in almost 1/3 reduction of plastic in our packaging to start with. Second, we actually talked about better plastic when we said, can you actually get post-consumer recycled plastic and reduce the amount of virgin plastic that we use in our product? And the third one is no plastic, which is for a marketing company, almost a harakiri, where we said that actually you can bring in any bottle that you want. And we are now setting up refill machines where you could actually put in your product in any machine that you could do. We've rolled out a couple of them in the modern trade. We've now cracked a solution which is less than $50 where I can set it up in a mom and pop shop. Over the next few weeks, we'll set it up and start experimenting. Now, through that, what we're trying to do is making sure that we absolutely try to obviously experiment, change the ecosystem, and make sure that we are able to disrupt and create an environment. Just for perspective, we've now got the largest plastic collection program in this country, where we collect plastic from the environment. Last year, we've collected 40% of our footprint. And what do you do with that plastic? That plastic gets processed. So the plastic that can be recycled gets recycled. The plastic...
What is how do you find it economic in terms of what you're doing right now?
So the whole value chain, this is an existing value chain, by the way. People do pick up plastics. So PET plastics actually get recycled. and there is an economic value. So when you, in any of houses, we don't have segregation in Bangladesh. We typically throw everything together. The people that pick it up from our houses actually segregate. And they will segregate the PET plastics because they can sell it because the PET has a recycling. The struggle actually is with single-use plastic, multi-layer plastic. That's what the struggle is. But what we are doing is we are actually giving value for them. So we are saying, can you, because you anyway pick up PETs, you pick up HDPs and PPs, can you start picking up the single-use plastics that come to the environment? And we are giving additional incentive for them, creating a whole environment to say, I will buy it from you. Because today they don't pick it up and it goes to the landfill. I said, because you're already in the environment, let me pick it up. And we've collected, and this year, our target is we'll collect more plastic than the plastic that goes to our product. So as an organization, hopefully I can come back and say I'm plastic negative.
Okay. I'll come back to you. Mr. Ariful Haq, BIDA, I mean, basically we're not talking of transition, we are talking of transformation. There's a significant difference. Now, in order for Bangladesh economy, Bangladesh manufacturing to transform, BIDA would have a central role because we are to also look at transformation of our policy, outlook, and the government has its vision 2041. So in that, I mean, we are to talk about absolutely unknowable new technology providers who are to come. So how would BIDA, as BIDA, you'd kind of give signals? Because right now, we deal with any X million dollar company coming in and setting factories, mostly in terms of bricks and mortar mobilization. Sure. But for the circular technology-oriented investments to come in, what kind of signals would you think BIDA can give?
Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Many of you are working with us. Thank you very much. Basically, circular economy, if we can define, is in the vantage point of the investment, is a production process, first thing. It's not a new thing, but to reorient the production from linear to sustainable. That's the model. So here comes your first thing, the balance sheet and the return of investment. And that need to be supported by the policy makers if needed. So on that note, as you can see, there are two major issues cropping up. One is the LSC graduation, where the challenges of the current production process will be revisited, and another is the accession to the developing country by 2013, 2014. That's two things. So how the government can look into the issues. If you can see that particularly in the LSC graduations, as our Excellency has been said, that we'll be losing the preferences in trade, there will be losing of the DFQs and the SNDC treatment. So adopting circularity in the production process is the issue, very novel in our system, which has not been tried out. But here we understand that to sustain the industry, like all other industry that we have done, the policy support of the government is necessary.
No, if I be very specific, let's say the kind of incentives,
correct,
tariff or non-tariff, these are the signals, frankly. So if, let's say from Europe somewhere, a company or entrepreneur or an innovator, SME basically, comes and says that I have a niche technology, but under the current set of incentives, please correct me if I'm wrong or right, I can see. I mean, if whatever is existing beyond that, how, for example, I mean, what kind of additional signal perhaps BIDA would like to give?
That I will be coming to, Excellency. That thing is currently the incentive regime in Bangladesh, it can be fiscal or non-fiscal, whatever it is very much is very generic in models. So this is not sector specific. That's the first thing. All the incentive programs of the National Board of Revenue Central Bank is very generic. They set some rules for this is the X percentage for this sort of thing. But again, then the sector, each individual sector has its own characteristics. Its return of investment, its other parameters are totally different. So that's we are coming to. As you know, Excellency, that we have devised, there are two high-powered committees formed by the government. One is the LSC Graduation Committee, headed by the Principal Secretary to the Honorable Prime Minister, where 6 thematic groups are working. Many works has been done, where these particular issues, which will be emanated after the LSC graduation, are taking into. We are part of the system. So where we are talking with the stakeholders, all the stakeholders, policymakers, where this particular issue, as you're referring to, circular economy, or many other issues that will be cropping up, are to looked into.
Yeah, I would connect with what Kim said, and I was talking to Ms. Javed. Essentially, we are here not to look for solution right now, right today. Essentially, we are to do a lot of experimentation. I'm also looking at Mr. Taksim Khan from Dhaka Wasa, because that's where it would eventually go to. It has to go to. We do not know. Even across Asia, there are a lot of experiments we'll have to make. Most of the experiments will fail even, but we need to be open to those failures. So this, I think, we submit.
If I may just add, and just Arif is so right, that today, if you look at our tax structure and incentives, are not designed to promote circular economy. And that's the crux of the issue. So there is a bit of work, and Ambassador, it would be great to also dovetail here as well. We're trying to work with BPGMA, BCCI, with the Mr. Sabar Hussain Chaudhry, to say that what specific action incentivizes us to drive circularity, a sustainable solution. So let me give you an example. For example, I design a factory, so there should be enough air and light for my employees. And hence my factory height is 3-storied. But when I go to a municipal corporation, actually tells me, by the way, it's a single factory. It's just that it's height because it's got light and elevation. The municipal actually charges me tax for 3 stories. So just a classic example of contradiction in reality, because I have a conversation, and it's a real life contradiction. And these are the things I've highlighted to Mr. Sabar Hussain Chaudhry as well. He's aware. And we are working on something that we go and tell you, these are the concrete things that you give. That encourages.
I'll come back. Very interesting, because this should eventually take us, because I am sitting as ambassador to Netherlands, I'm only thinking that if someone says, I want to put up a factory with circular solutions, with this niche innovation, whereas whatever incentive you go to a company to put up in an economic zone, then he would ask that what is the additionality? What might be the concession framework that you might offer? So we don't have the answers, but I think the whole purpose of this conversation for everyone in the room, please understand these are open questions. We won't have the solutions right away, answers, in 1 or 2 days, but raising the questions, framing the questions, formulating these is, I think, a game on. Zia, I'll come to you later. Mr. Iqbal Chaudhry, Lafarge, a big player in construction, if I put, just not a cement manufacturer, but also with a lot of very distinguished or distinct innovation. When you look at the manufacturing, physical infrastructure part of Bangladesh, could I just ask you, let's say, 1, 2, 3 specific things that you think that from Lafarge's point of view, because you are in 2 decades in Bangladesh, maybe more in South Asia, given the attitude, uniqueness of our people, our absorption, what could really cross your mind in terms that you think could be tried with circular solutions or circular innovation?
Thank you. First of all, giving me the opportunity. Construction industry, I think it's absolutely very, very relevant for both, you mentioned, decarbonization and circularity. And our group, Holcim Group, it's a Swiss company. And globally also, we are doing so many things in terms of the decarbonizing cement. It's, you know that it's one of the high emitter. So from the global practice, few things which already been adopted in Bangladesh. So one of the great example, Environment Department is not there. We are closely working with them, how we are managing the waste of some of the companies as well as municipal waste. And we are actually disposing that in our kiln, where we manufacture clinker. We use 1450 degrees Celsius of thermal energy, and all this waste actually goes there. So one of the key customer is Unilever also. So whatever they are not able to recycle, disposal, it's a clean disposal. So that is one of the part, but the bigger part is, as you mentioned, that as a group, we do lots of experimentation in terms of the alternate materials. Like one great example I can give, that clinker is produced from the limestone, and limestone is a very scarce actually globally. The construction demolition waste, we actually demonstrate lots of building to reuse that plant, and we are actually throwing that into our land. This construction demolition waste can be reused in our construction of in our clinker manufacturing. Globally, we started this, but this needs regulations. Bangladesh doesn't have regulations, so we are working with the relevant industry to formulate the regulations. Number two, there are lots of wastage from the different industry, like a steel industry. They are sitting with a huge problem on the waste. So waste, what is problem for the industry, I can manage that waste. So we have the unique facility in Bangladesh, and we are the only one, because we are the only one who's having the clinker manufacturing process. So we can manage this entire waste for our clean disposal. That is in terms of disposal. In terms of circularity, construction demolition waste is one of the great examples which we are doing globally. Number two is doing basically, as you mentioned, CO2. We are actually doing the R&D, how we can give the similar strength by reducing 30% of CO2. Similar strength of cement with the 30% reduction of the CO2. And number three,
No, can I cut back? We'll come back, because we're limited by time. So I'll go after Zia. We have time, then we'll come back to you. Zia, do you have the microphone? Yes. H&M, you have the largest footprint in Bangladesh. As much as it's for H&M, it's also for Bangladesh vis-a-vis H&M. Can I ask you straight away, I heard Madam in the morning, but could you tell us, because this was also very fascinating to hear from Unilever, that we have faced some of the dilemma in terms of the shifting or going to transformation, because sometimes the people with policy space, they might struggle to understand. So 2-3 things, examples, specific instances that you may have in mind that you're already rolling out, or you think, or you're planning or mulling over to roll out in H&M in Bangladesh.
Well, thank you so much. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here, and it's a lovely crowd, and thanks to Mustafi's.
Let's go straight into that. As a Dutch, I can tell you.
Good. Well, for H&M, if you look at how we source here, we have a very concrete presence in this market. More than 3 decades we've been working. So, and one of the very big sourcing destination for the group. So if you want to change anything in our group, it has to be here, because our kitchen belongs here. So that's one thing. I think this is where we start. If you talk about circularity, I think Laila mentioned at the beginning, the ambitious goal that we have by 2030, 100% of the material either recycled or sustainable material should come. We break it down to 2050. The goal was 30%. If I'm not wrong, Laila, she mentioned 23% already there. 24%, all right. You remember better than me. So I think we can have an even more ambitious, so I think we're driving a lot of things.
So if that 24% figure is there, how much, are you being able to exercise that in Bangladesh on the ground with the manufacturers?
Imagine, this is our biggest sourcing destination. So
are you facing any trouble any resistance from the manufacturers?
Yeah. No, it's not a resistance, I would say. I think, first of all, it's a huge shift. It's a mindset, change, actually. And it's a dynamics of the whole industry needs to be changed, I would say. I can name, technology development. I can name the investment, the finance. We talk a lot about it. It looks like the money is flying in the air, but that doesn't work. I'm coming to your point, sir. Yeah. I haven't touched your point. And then you talk about policy. The policy is against us still. We've been to BIDA also. We've been talking with our honorable prime minister's advisors as well. That there's a policy, particularly importing this post-consumer waste. It's not in our favor. If you talk about green access...
sorry, I beg to intervene. We know the limitations, we know the constraints, difficulties in terms of moving the policy space. That's why it is not my intention, and I sort of belonging to the policy space, I know the struggle. I think you as well. So I think let's talk about 2-3 things that you think can be done, or you are in the process. That will be much more useful. Because I've kept away. That's why you saw that, I was bringing illustrations, instances, that's to excite, because many of them, I said that already 2-3 fellows in the room I know who are already doing. So if you could just enlighten us.
Well, it starts with policies. It should start from there.
No, it's not about should. What H&M perhaps has done or is planning to do.
Okay, if the question is what we have done, we start working with our suppliers with a very ambitious goal as well. We start investing with our suppliers. Not only that we place order, we invest financially as well, being a partner with them. We draw a picture for next 5 to 7 years, how it will look like, so that they go for the direct investment and we become partnering with that. That's very high-tech technology.
Okay,
So,
great. In the interest of time, I would love to take two, time permitting, two questions maybe. Anyone with any burning question, please raise your hand. Can someone move with mic, please? A bit faster. Is Naresh in the room? Mr. Khalid from Naresh, are you in the room? No. Is there someone? Okay, please. কেউ একটু মাইক্রোফোন দিকে হেল্প করবেন ওনাকে? ভাই একটু দৌড়ে যান। Who next? After him? After her? Okay. Yeah, we'll come back to you. Please, very quickly, just a question.
Yes, I have a question for the official from BIDA. So, I am Sharawat. I work for a Dutch impact investment company. I am the managing director for Bangladesh. So, I'd like to know if there are European or USA-based impact investors who would like to create environmental impact for Bangladesh. So would BIDA incentivize these investors? So would there be any policies that would motivate European or American investors to come forward investing in Bangladesh for greening of the economy, for encouraging circularity?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your question. It's a very interesting question. As per the policy of the government, we encourage every investment in Bangladesh. The policy of us is most level in South Asia, almost allowing everybody to invest in all sectors. So on that note, we are delighted to work with them. And regarding the impact investment, it is an investment by itself. So as per the policy of the government, you can invest. And apart from BIDA, I think there will be a question of BSEC on the impact or venture capital, so that sort of thing. But from our end, we are open to any investment, and particularly if it is a green investment, we'll love to work with them. We'll be very happy to support them.
If I may add to what he is saying, this is a very this is a virgin space, to be very frank. Very poignant question. In Europe, I know that more interest is being expressed not in terms of physical investment into physical space in terms of building and manufacturing, but more in the intersection called impact investment. And I request that if you take this question to Ministry of ICT and also Finance together.
We'll love to do that. If you can get your proposal, rest assured from my agency, BIDA, Premises Office, will be at your disposal as always. Thank you.
So Sarawat, you have to articulate the question and may reach to BIDA and then carry forward the conversation. Yes, please. The gentleman right here, you please. Quickly, the question.
Yeah, hi. My question is to Mr. Zia, H&M. I heard this morning also Ms. Leila said the initiatives about supporting circularity and everything. With the falling price and challenges that we all know, we would like to hear from you in particular, is there any KPIs with its cost against the circularity? So that supplier could use that money directly to the circularity, whatever nature and wellness of the workers. We are talking about a lot of things. I know a little bit of H&M's way of business because the good practitioners, we also load good business, but that price is falling. So we would like to see any separate initiatives which directly goes to the environment, workers' welfare, which doesn't go to the accounts of the business, which will be marched later on. Thank you.
thanks a lot, Mahir Bhai. I think it's a very, very important questions to be answered. First of all, circularity is not a nice thing to do. It's a business case, and it is a proven business case. And because I think in your presentation, you also mentioned that the waste become the opportunity, and we use it as a resources so that you stop taking the natural resources. And that is a very clear for us. And if you see our statement, by 2030, we want to use 100% of our material from a recycle or a sustainable sources. So that is a very clear goal that we're not going to take the new one. All right, now to talk about the prices. Price is a part of the whole package, I would say. If it is not a business case, it cannot be part of the discussion in any way. So for me, if you talk directly, because I understand from which angle you talk about that price goes down and others, it's a part of the negotiation, and as long as it is a business case, and we all played a vital role over there, and we do ethical business in this country as well, I would say in our whole supply chain, it is very important that we maintain that, and it goes vice versa. And we work very closely with our suppliers with a commitment like we have suppliers more than 20 years. And if you are not practicing, particular, such a good business policies, they wouldn't be with us. And each and every supplier that we work, we don't call them a supplier anymore. We call them a partner, and this is where the beauty started, because circularity. And I couldn't answer you earlier that we start partnering with our supplier where we put a business that, okay, these XYZ million pieces you're going to buy, and this is how we're going to buy it, so that you go for the investment. So the investment is no more a supplier do by themselves. You really need to allow me 30 seconds. You go for the investment, and we start putting a money together with that. It's not that we only place order. Our role is changing, because so does the whole dynamics of the supply chain is changing. Thank you so much.
I think what Zia is saying is very interesting. Basically, he's trying to say, and which I picked up somewhere else in Netherlands, is that increasingly the conversation will move away from looking at or judging or making a decision only based on cost. It will be value. Someone told me, tell me what kind of stories that you bring. And yesterday, I know a Bangladeshi fantastic Beni Bunon, for example, they clinched a huge deal just selling their stories. So, and then he told me that the people on the other side, if you call buyer or brands, they were saying that, no, tell us. And they found the stories much more compelling. You want to add something?
You've covered it well, actually. You've covered it. That was what I was about to say.
And please bear with us, because the next session will be circular cities. And there I'm looking at the managing director of Dhaka Wasa, because there's the other big thing is water circularity. Water circularity in terms of urban space, also manufacturing. Can I put it the other way around? If I look at Ms. Laila to you, and can someone get microphone to her? Sorry, life circular. It has to circulate. Yeah, I'm not putting you in a very difficult situation, but frankly, in a conversation, because what would be your take? Not feel free as an individual, because one of the difficulties that I think, because when I go to Delft and other places, the people who really talk about water, the water future is getting really scary. And Roger, when he was in Bangladesh, I had a long conversation back immediately following Rana Plaza, and he said that, look, water will be the key determinant between for H&M and a company or factory where I will place my order with. And I was really fascinated. 10 years later, when you deal with your, let's say, vendor or supplier, and how, because I'm being told that sourcing of water will be a key determinant. If you please reflect on that, because it will be very much more useful, because people don't understand what is water circularity.
Sure, thank you very much. Looking at the trends and the emergencies, I wouldn't point out water as a single enabler to create business relationship. I think we need to take a holistic approach and bring together climate, water, land use, biodiversity, and look at all of them at the same time. I think it's impossible to say water will be more important than fresh air, or fresh air will be more important than land use. So I think we need to look into whole ecosystem plus holistic impact to people at the same time. So when we are positively contributing to planet, we should talk about our positive impact to societies at the same time. So I would say prioritizing water or climate will be not our case. Instead, we will look into holistically more our activities and initiatives in holistically in multiple areas. I think this is where we get the success
No,
as
that's
well.
fine. You know why I'm coming? Because 1 year back, in the middle of COVID getting down, someone walked up to our office and said that, Ambassador, the discussion which right now is that for a consumer, a buyer, teenage, going to an Amsterdam shop, scanning the QR code, and then saying, what is the water footprint of this shirt?
Yes, yes.
I was scared.
Yes, yes.
And the next big thing is that where was this particular quantum of water sourced? Underground or surface? And third, please understand, in the process of sourcing the water, whether the next door small farmer, small holder was impacted, meaning whether he or she was hurt. Now this is, we are talking of circularity, and it goes, I or you cannot blame the consumer because it's a sovereign decision, preferences, choices. So we can scream about it, but this is it.
Definitely. I mean, previously...
And I'm also looking at the gentleman next to you, the gentleman with green tie, because he will be in the spot right now in a few minutes.
I mean, I would say when we were looking into relative water consumption for the last 5 years, now we are looking at absolute water consumption. Because you can only take a consideration what you are relatively doing. You need to look into your holistic water consumption. And I think is what we are doing with the ETP processes, everything needs to be scaled up. So I'm not saying that water is not important, but I would say water will be one of the critical impact area that we will continue to develop with all others. But we should definitely look into total reductions, total clean water usage, and how do you bring the circle also in water? So how do you bring the water into factories to reuse in multiple streams? This is going to be our ambition in the water world.
Is there anyone who'd like to add any last bit? Just 1 minute.
No, I think Bangladesh is in a very nascent stage in terms of the awareness of using the waste. Waste is not a waste. So, like, waste is a problem for others and waste is a resource for us. How we connect each other. There is no clearly platform where we can say, okay, I have a waste and you need that waste. That is missing. So I would request from this plenary session how we can create this place. Thank you.
Okay.
No, I think my final comment would be, I think it starts with the purpose and the intent as an owner. In this conversation on this as well, I still see a supplier and a brand owner. The accountability rests with the brand owner. The brand owner has to realize that. If you don't realize that, and if you don't pass on and look at the whole value chain and the value that you generate, you'll not be there. A few years, H&M won't be here. Bangladesh will crack a brand. It's not stopping Bangladesh from cracking a brand because that's where the money is. So the whole thing is when you take the whole accountability of the whole value chain and take care of the people as well, that's when you'll actually start, because your consumer will ask. And I'll tell you, today I'm sitting here, my son is sitting here. I'm also here because he insisted that I be here. He's your future consumer, not me. Yeah, he holds me accountable. Brands will hold you accountable, consumers will hold you accountable. And that's why I do. I'm a businessman. The reason Unilever does all of this is because I know I build consumer preferences. So that's my last comment. I know I'm not in the industry, but I just thought I'll sort of put this forward and push the agenda a bit more. Thank you so much.
Well, the last comments will be that it's a problem not for mine or yours. It's all of ours. If the world doesn't, stay, we don't have another Earth in our solar system that you can go with. So we can't avoid it. And I think I really like his approach. He brings his son here, or maybe his son brings him here. That it's a commitment not for himself, it's for his son. That's a true commitment. Thanks a lot for that sharing. And I think it shows the passion. But Bangladesh, if you look at the last 50 years development, the entrepreneurship of this land is so big. So I'm really, really hopeful that we're going to make this change. We really. And this is our policy plays a very vital, because for all of us, the government plays a vital role, and not because you two are government. You are our guardian. If you this is a bar you touch, absolutely. We all bound to go there. Thank you so much for listening.
In very closing, I would request that we go back to towards the end of the day, perhaps keeping back of mind few things. One, inherent for everyone sitting in the room, to move out of our comfort zones. experimentation. Again, I acknowledge to Kim. Appetite to take risks, not ability, appetite, readiness. Circularity is not a textbook. Kim has authored a textbook from Palgrave Macmillan. Doesn't mean that you read the text and you will be a guru of circularity, frankly. It's a completely ground zero. We do not know whether what had happened here for us would be same for X country. Circularity can offer us a chance to leapfrog, truly leapfrog, the way we did it with mobile, when mobile was introduced. Whether, I mean, it's up to us whether we would be able to catch up, and because that is contingent on our risk-taking ability, intention. Good that your son is here. And lastly, consumers are ahead of the brands, as I see in Europe, and consumers are really pushing many. So sometimes it gets difficult, I think, also for the brands and trade unions to really understand what's really going on. And they speak so quietly because the illustration of Vinted is a fascinating thing. I've not explained what is it, but sometimes I see that the inventory management for the stores are also changing. So I was telling one of my friends that don't come to Europe and Netherlands for shopping. Why? You won't forget things in the rack. This is the way it's happening. It's also driven by circularity mindset. On that note, thank you very much for everyone for bearing with us, and over to the organizers.
Thank you.